All right, welcome into Sports Bit. Betting and Insight today. Paulie and Teddy, happy 4th of July out there. Enjoy the barbecue. Huge shows, big week of shows coming up. Get to Phil Steele Part 1 tomorrow. Big game breakdown, going to be the Mets and the Marlins and the Royals and the Blue Jays. Before we get to bad beats and bad bets, Teddy, is Selig still the commissioner? I mean, what a bad job by Major League Baseball with all these teams that have to travel day game to day game. It doesn't make any sense. There's only one road favorite on the entire card today.
Yeah, I mean, MLB, how do they screw this up so badly?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you make the point. It feels like Bud Selig is still commish when you look at this 4th of July schedule. I mean, look what happens. Okay, the Brewers fly east, St. Louis to Washington. The Pirates fly east, Oakland to St. Louis. So remember, when you're flying east, you're losing sleep time. The Reds fly from Washington to Chicago. The Braves, remember, they were in Atlanta, then they fly to Fort Bragg, and then off a night game, they have to fly to New York. Okay, the Rockies fly LA to San Francisco. The Marlins, in Atlanta to Fort Bragg, North Carolina to New York. The Angels, Boston to Tampa. Mm-hmm. The Rangers, Minnesota to Boston. The Yankees, San Diego to Chicago. Yeah, 9 different teams having to travel road to road into day games, if we properly count Atlanta as a Fort Bragg game as opposed to a home game for the Braves.
Right. Marlins, Braves go night to day. Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and the Yankees all have to travel back across at least one time zone. And, the Yankees, the only road favorite, as I mentioned. Oakland and Seattle may be traveling for home games, but they are crossing 2 time zones to play. And what'll be 11 in the morning on their body clock. So what's supposed to be a showcase for the sport, a lot of these guys are going to be yawning here while the game starts.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. I mean, look at this photo. On the day where MLB is supposed to be at its best, MLB is not likely to be at its best. And, of course, I screwed one of those up, by the way. Atlanta goes to Philadelphia, not to New York. Miami goes to New York. Of course, look at the tweet from Jason Stark that says what all the effects of all of this has been. I mean, it was a ton of blowouts in baseball all weekend. 9 different teams scored in double figures this weekend. 22 different teams scored at least 7 runs. So, Jason Stark said it. How do we celebrate the 4th of July weekend in baseball?
Yeah.
By sending position players to the mound. Montero and Jimenez make 7 of them. 7 non-pitchers pitching since Friday.
I watched the game Friday with the Indians and the Blue Jays when it went 19, and they brought Goins in and another infielder to pitch. And then the Goins got out of a bases-loaded jam, and they gave him a standing ovation.
As well they should have.
I know. That was a fun game to watch. All right. Bad beats and bad bets. Bad bets, let's start with the Rays, who were bet up from 140 to 175. They've lost 4 in a row, and they are 15 games under 500.
Yeah, I mean, the weekend, it's gone from bad to worse in Tampa for Kevin Cash. Team's now 33 and 48. Basically, they're out of contact with the wild card at the midway point of the season. A lot of it for Tampa has been injuries, where many of their key positional players have gotten hurt, and they're not really a great hitting team. But it's been an ugly stretch for the Rays over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it looks now like Tampa is going to be a seller at the trading deadline. But the markets didn't seem like that on Sunday, Paulie.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, tons of Rays money. Oh, Tampa can't get swept at home. Yeah, they can. Minus 140 up to minus 175, and it's all losers.
Bad bet if you had Eddie Flores props under. 6 for 6. Oh, what a performance.
Yeah, the last guy to do that, this is from MLB Stat of the Day, a good tweet. Edgardo Alfonso did it in 1999. First time a guy's gone 6 for 6, so I don't know how many of you out there really bet any Flores props under, but that doesn't happen every day when this is the first time it's happened here in the 21st century.
Yeah, entered the game 0-14. How about that?
Yeah, but he had 6 hits in his previous 12 games.
Yeah,
his average in one day went from 224 to 255, and home runs went from 3 to 5.
Well, hey, we told you on Sportsbet that the Mets have the Cubs number. They swept them, and they blew them out in 3 of the games.
Oh, yeah. And then, I'm guilty on this one, Paul. I had some Cubs money. I thought that on Sunday the Cubs were going to avoid the sweep, and I was worried about Syndergaard not being right, but it didn't matter because Lester wasn't right. The Mets go yard early and often. Of course, Chicago was a road favorite in that ball game, but do we start to worry about the Cubs right now?
Yes.
Because John Lester on Sunday was every bit the, I don't know, what do we call him, the anti-ace as Jake Arrieta
Yep.
was on Saturday.
They're-
And these are guys that the Cubs are going to need, not just to pitch, but to pitch extraordinarily well for Chicago to be able to actually make noise in October.
They got blown out 2 of the games. Like Saturday was close, but again, Arrieta got the loss. There's something wrong with him. They need to sit him down and get him some rest. He's not the same guy he was earlier in the season, the dominant pitcher last year. Heavy Blue Jays money. Indians flat as a pancake after the 14-game winning streak came to an end, and they were roughed up in this one.
Yeah, they sure were. We already told you on Sportsman how Cleveland doesn't produce for Corey Kluber, and that was again the case on Sunday. But this is one that the wise guys got absolutely right. Blue Jays money poured in on Sunday before the opening pitch, and all of that money got paid off.
All right, and one more here. Strasburg, we expect to see $3 favorites with a comfortable lead. Strasburg was pulled with a no-hitter after 6 2/3. He becomes the first pitcher in the National League since Andy Hawkins in 1985 to start 11-0.
Yeah, really strong effort from Strasburg here. And of course, first start coming off the DL. So I can understand why he got pulled in the middle of a no-hitter after 6.2 innings. Also, he threw 109 pitches. It was following a walk and a wild pitch. It looked like he was getting gassed. And, of course, John Lamb, he went pitch for pitch with Lester last time out, but he couldn't do it 2 times in a row. He got lit up on Sunday.
All right, big game breakdown up next. We'll start with the Marlins and the Mets. Can the Mets keep it going? It's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today.
Hey everyone, tune into the MLB Odds Couple show for today, Monday, July 4th. I want you to turn off the SportsBit video right now and go directly to watch our video Monday, July 4th. I got a bunch of plays, Mike Brenner. I'm liking them. Turn the video off right now and go to the MLB Odds Couple show July 4th. Yes, I can.
Happy
and
4th of July.
We're back on SportsBit. Big game breakdown as always. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Marlins and the Mets. Kohler against Harvey. Mets $1.50, 7.5 the total. And the Miami goes from the night game at Fort Bragg to the afternoon start. This is a horrendous scheduling spot. Shouldn't be a problem for Kohler, although his problem is he's not tired. He hasn't been able to find a strike zone, Teddy.
Yeah, and again, Miami goes from playing in Atlanta to playing in Fort Bragg, that's like 381 miles away, to now a night game at Fort Bragg, to an afternoon start in New York. And again, it's not an early afternoon, it's a late afternoon game. But nonetheless, an early start for the Marlins from a scheduling standpoint, not a good one. And remember last time we talked about a really bad scheduling standpoint? The Pirates in that miserable spot, and they went on to lose, 12 of their next 14 games. So
Correct.
something to be aware of with Miami right now. But, you talk about Kohler, and I mean, the big issue, it's not like he's going to be tired. That's our biggest concern with him. Our biggest concern with Kohler is that he can't find the strike zone. When we look at balls per 9 innings, based on balls per 9 innings, the leaders in 2016, there's 97 pitchers with enough innings to qualify. Francisco Liriano, speaking of the Pirates, has been the worst. Right below him, or right next to him, or above him, I guess, Tom Kohler at 4.9 walks per 5. And there's no way to make up for it. He's not a guy with blinding speed. He's only averaging 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's not a guy that's going to pitch sinker balls and get a bunch of ground ball outs, only 44% ground ball rate. So all the advanced metric stats rate him as a below average pitcher, Paul. And even though his stats are okay, you can see at some point you can expect the bottom to drop out for Tom Kohler.
And you don't want to be a below average pitcher going against the Mets right now. Look what they did over the weekend with this graphic against Hamill, Arrieta, and Lester, who threw 10 innings pitched, ERA of 18 and change, and 9 home runs. A great offensive weekend at a time that the Mets really needed it.
Oh, it sure did. And again, when you're hitting 9 home runs off of Hamill, Arrieta, and Lester in 10.1 innings, obviously you're taking some good at-bats. And, of course, it really helps both offensively and defensively to have their Gold Glover, Juan Lagares, back in the lineup. He's been hurt. And, of course, they got Curtis Granderson back as well after he missed a little bit of time on Sunday.
What do we do with Harvey? His last start was there was a rain delay, so only threw 67 pitches. Will he be fresh, rusty? What do we do with that?
Well, at 67 pitches, I don't worry about it so much. When a guy comes in and pitches an inning or two, and then all of a sudden there's a 2-hour rain delay and they got to pull him, oftentimes that's going to take a starter out of his rhythm. But Harvey, he got 67 pitches in. and he got pulled after the rain delay. I wonder if he might not be fresher and stronger in this outing. And of course, he had been in pretty good rhythm. We talked about Matt Harvey as being a pitcher with a lot of question marks about a month ago. And since that time, he's really settled down, a 2.29 ERA over his last 6 starts. But it's worth noting that the Mets only won 1 game for him. He took 3 losses and only won 1, despite that 2.29 ERA over those last 6 starts, Paulie. But, we have to wonder if this Mets offense can stay on form. It's kind of overdue for them to produce for Harvey. The Mets scored a combined 7 runs for him in those 6 ball games.
Yep, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Second game, Royals and the Blue Jays. Blue Jays $1.75 at home, 9 the total. Volquez against Sanchez. Nothing says 4th of July like a team from Canada having a home game.
Yeah,
but,
really.
In any event, one of the big questions coming out of the first half has been how much upside Sanchez has.
No, one of the big questions coming out of the first half is why the Blue Jays get a home game on the 4th of July.
Okay.
And nothing against our friends in Canada. Or our friends. One thing that really impressed me about Sportsbet, Paulie, is how many guys we have watching from around the globe. It's not just a show that speaks to an exclusively U.S.-based audience, but in this instance, why on earth does Toronto get a home game on 4th of July? Baffling to me.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about Aaron Sanchez. He's 8-1. With a 3.08 ERA. Now that he's a full-time starter, he's really got someone that people are looking at with a lot of upside. This is a first-round pick back in 2010, and he split time between starting and relieving. There was still, even with that 8-1 3.08, there is still some in the Toronto organization and some around the Toronto organization that look at Aaron Sanchez and say, this guy should be our closer, and we can trade for another starter. Not when he's pitching as well as he is, in my opinion. But, the guy's got some issues with his control. Toronto's always worried about his control. But this year, he's been able to keep that under control, per se, pun intended. Less than 3 walks per 9 innings. That gives him a chance to be elite because the other categories are really good. The career ground ball rate, more than 60%. That's A-plus level. More than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's getting outs the way he wants to. And as long as he's not walking batters, there's a lot of upside with Aaron Sanchez.
And last week on Sports, we talked about Volquez, who was coming off one of the worst games of his career. Could he bounce back? Well, he came back with the right answers and did bounce back.
Yeah, he sure did. Of course, this is a guy that got tagged for 12 runs, 11 of them earned, in just 1 inning of work at home against Houston. And he bounced right back last time. He shut the Cardinals out on the road, left with 2 outs in the 7th. So we know that if he's on his game and the Astros' loss was a one-off, look at the impact. Consider the impact here, Paulie. The ERA with the Houston game, 4.80 for the full season. The ERA, if we just take that 1 game out, is nearly a full run lower. And I got to say, the second number to me is the one I'd rather use as a handicapper, not the ERA that factors in 1 truly woeful inning. I mean, you want to punish him for the bad game,
sure,
but not so much that it creates a false impression of A, what his season's going like, and B, what his overall abilities are like. Edison Volquez may well be a bet on hurler moving forward.
Is that it? Right to play of the day?
Yeah, there's no deep dive today.
All right.
It's 4th of July. And look, I understand if you guys want a deep dive every day, we'll have one tomorrow. We got Phil Steele coming all week.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to get your college football fix right here on Sportsbet. But 4th of July, blame me. I bagged the deep dive today. It's pool time. Go out and enjoy yourself. Let's see if we can give you a play of the day winner before you do.
You got that right. Happy 4th of July. Play of the day. Back to the Mets, $1.50. Standard rule of the thumb in MLB. Bet against any team playing 3 games in 3 different ballparks in 3 days. Mets bats alive and well. They woke up big time, 30 runs during the 4-game sweep of the Cubbies, and more worried about a letdown if they left town. But Granderson back in the lineup, full strength, getting healthy. Mets $1.50 at home against the Marlins. That's the play of the day. Phil Steele tomorrow, part 1. Who's going to make the playoff? SEC preview. That starts it off. And big game breakdown. We'll recap everything on the 4th of July coming up on Sportsbet. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.